Hello, I'm Mr. Sensible. One thing I never do on my channel is politics, and I'm going to argue that I'm not doing it today. But there's something really important, something that's been bugging me for quite some time that I think I need to discuss. You may say it's politics. I shall argue that it's not, and we'll take it from there. Now, I know many Americans. Hell, my daughter is married to one. I've been to America and really enjoyed it, and I look forward to going again. I think it's a wonderful country with wonderful people. So what do I want to talk about? I think America right now is at risk of falling. So what's happening in America? Well, there's something called the election. You're going to say, aha, Mr. S, that is definitely politics. Right, now, as far as I'm concerned, politics is left v right. It's arguments over taxation levels, or discussions on abortion, or discussions on, for American friends, gun control, and many, many other things. I'm not going to talk about those at all. So what do I know about American politics? Well, I follow it as best I can, but I'm sure that I don't know all the ins and outs of the Democrat positions. I don't know all the ins and outs of the Republican positions. And again, I'm not arguing those. I'm sure that there are many things on both those sides that are very laudable and many things that are quite wacky. So what is my issue? My issue is Mr. Trump. Trump, I believe, is not Republican. I have no problem at all with Republicans. I have a trouble with Mr. Trump. So what about my personal political opinions? Isn't that going to sway what I have got to say? Well, I'm pretty much a floating voter. Here in the UK, there's some things that Labour have either said that they would do or have done in the past that I agree with, and many things that I've disagreed with. There's some things that the Conservatives have said or done in the past that I've agreed with, and many things I've disagreed with. Again, that's not what I'm arguing. I'm not arguing left v right. I'm not trying to influence, what little influence I've got, influence the political position of the great American people. I just want there to be a great American people and a great US of A. Yay, Uncle Sam. So if I've got no problem with the Republicans, what is my issue? My issue is, I think Mr. Trump, as do many, many people, both in the US and around the world, I think Mr. Trump is not a Republican, not in a traditional sense, not someone who holds the Republican values. So what is the issue of Mr. Trump? Mr. Trump is a wannabe dictator. Mr. Trump is not a clever man. Mr. Trump is a failed, many times failed businessman. Mr. Trump is a bully and a racist. Mr. Trump is someone who would throw his granny under the bus if it got him another couple of votes. But why does he want votes? Well, two reasons. One, power, for power's sake, but mainly, I think, in order to try and protect himself. He ran as president the first time, I think, as no more than a gimmick, something that he thought would improve his businesses or his standing in the world. Unfortunately, against all odds, he seems to have won and become the president. And he was president for 4 years. And of the many, many things he promised, like, for instance, a border wall that Mexico's going to pay, he didn't do it. Like releasing his tax returns, he didn't do it. His history is littered with broken promises. His history is littered with stupid things, like the whole inject people with bleach fiasco, or shine an infrared light up their butt, or whatever the hell it was, in order to tackle COVID. This is not a bright guy. Not by a long chalk. So I said he wants power for power's sake, and that's true, and I suspect it's true for many politicians, but more dangerously is he wants power just to keep himself out of the clink. He's got himself into a shed load of trouble with all sorts of court cases. Instead of actually fighting those court cases, he has done his damnedest to avoid them. The last thing he wants is for sentences to be carried out. Now, some may say Mr. Trump is greatly loved. Well, I'd say he's greatly loved amongst a certain number of Republicans. Many other Republicans are scared of him, I'm afraid. many other Republicans don't have the spine to stand up and put country before party. Actually, it's not country before party, it's country before Trump. The ones who have done this, the ones who have stood up against him, people like Nancy Pelosi, among quite a few others, have paid a heavy price. As soon as someone speaks out against them, they suddenly become a rhino, a Republican in name only. All that is an excuse for everybody else to dogpile on them. This is the politics of the schoolyard bully. This is not someone who is to be respected as a politician. And many Americans don't realise, but around the world, Trump is an absolute laughingstock. I used to think he was a laughingstock. No longer. I think he is pure danger. There's the whole thing with Project 2025. Apparently only 2 chapters out of the whole tome weren't written by people in the Trumpian sphere. And yet, of course, as soon as he heard people didn't like what was being said in Project 2025, he tried to distance himself from it. He can't put his name to what is patently Trumpism. If Trump gets his way, many freedoms will be lost. They're already being lost. As I said, I'm not going to argue the whys and the wherefores of something like abortion, but there has now been a major change in the position of abortion in the United States. Many people would say that freedoms have been lost, where we have ladies who are bleeding out in parking lots outside hospitals because doctors are too afraid to treat them. That's not good. Where we have young ladies who are pregnant from rape and they can't get this dealt with. That is no good. But I digress. The point is, what was is no more. The way Trump is going with the things he's talking about, many other things will be lost. This is supposed to be the country of the brave and the free. I don't think that Donald Trump knows how to spell free. There appear to be many crazy people in the Trumpian sphere, people like Laura Loomer. Now, I understand, could be wrong, but I understand that she's also spent time twice in a mental health institution. That's very sad. But the point is now she has the ear of the president and she is whispering crazy. No, she's not even whispering. She's shouting crazy talk into his ear. All this ridiculousness about Haitians eating cats and dogs. Someone made a claim that was actually made up and straight away it was run with. Then you get people like Trump just repeating it. This is causing real issues for the Haitians. This is causing others acting on Trump's behalf, if not his behest, causing them to issue bomb threats, meaning schools and hospitals and whatnot are having to be evacuated. Now, any real politician worth his salt would say, stop. Violence is not the answer. Stop. Anyone who's doing these things should not be doing it. But no, he won't speak out against it, just like he didn't speak out against the extreme right-wingers, the Proud Boys and whatnot, a couple of years back by saying there's good people on both sides and whatnot. He should have called it out. He could still hold his political opinions and want people to vote for him because of his policies that he's looking to put forward, but he should not be putting people at risk of the lunatics who are acting in this way. A politician should be pointing out what's wrong with the other side and their policies and putting forward their policies and explaining why they're right, not saying I have a concept of a policy. That's nothing. Usually I'm doing videos debunking conspiracy theories and flat earth. I never thought that that would overlap in any way, shape or form with what's going on in America, but it is. Consider the recent election debate. There was a post on Twitter not too long ago by someone claiming that a whistleblower from ABC television was going to give an affidavit claiming that ABC had provided Harris with all the questions in advance and had promised to only fact check Donald Trump. Straight away, the people on Trump's side ran with that with no evidence. No affidavit, no name, nothing. They just ran with it. Then you get Marjorie Taylor Greene posting the same. Then the next thing is, there's a wild story saying the whistleblower has been killed in a car crash. Straight away, Marjorie Taylor Greene claiming this with no evidence, receiving hundreds of thousands of views for this post with this wild-ass claim, only to a short while later have to retract that claim and say apparently it's not true. But of course, only a fraction of the people who saw the original post saw the new one. How many of those now believe that the government or the Democratic Party or ABC television have silenced someone when it hasn't happened? This whole idea of just seeing something on the internet, accepting it as true, running with it and broadcasting it and affecting other people is so similar to many of the wild flat earth claims. No evidence. Just a claim with no evidence. That is not a way to live. That is not the way to run for government, and that's certainly not the way to run a superpower. We are talking about a country with nuclear weapons, a country that could launch weapons and destroy large portions of the world. Do you really want someone who has their finger on that button, who just hears something, accepts it and runs with it and makes accusations? Do you want a president who is willing to target small groups of people? You think who he's targeted. He's targeted LGBTQ. He's targeted people based on their race. He's targeted disabled journalists. That's a bully. That's not a politician. That's someone who is divisive, not a unifying force. You want a unifying force around whatever your set of policies are to help bring your country up, to help lead other countries forward. You don't want someone who is just purely hate, spite, and lies based on nothing at all. But Trump's a strong leader. Yes, having a strong leader is a good thing. You don't want someone who's just going to buckle at the knees at every saber rattle from other countries around the world. But you also don't want someone who's just going to go around all the dictators or wannabe dictators, people like Putin, Kim Jong-un, etc., and just kiss butt. These are countries and leaders who are diametrically opposed to what the West and America in particular are supposed to stand for. Freedom. You can't have protests in Russia. You haven't got a free press in Russia. Certainly not in North Korea. You cannot respect these people. Look at Putin. He lies through his teeth. He lied and invaded Crimea. He was gathering forces, said they were just for an exercise, said there's no way he was looking to invade Ukraine. 5 minutes later, he invaded Ukraine. He breached their sovereign territory. He has no right to that. No right at all. This certainly has nothing to do with his original claims of, there are Nazis in Ukraine in certain regions of the east of Ukraine. He's bombing cities all across Ukraine. Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons after the fall of the Iron Curtain in return for a promise of being looked after by the West. Western countries have stepped forward, putting forward money and arms and other support to the Ukrainian people. America has done the same. Donald Trump quite obviously doesn't want this. Republicans that have spoken out. Actually, I'm going to apologise. It's not Republicans. It's the MAGA Trumpians have been speaking out, just saying how evil Zelensky is. Zelensky is an amazing man. He was a comedian who became a politician, became the leader of Ukraine. He's done an incredible job. He has unified his people. That is what a leader is. Whether you agree or not with his policies, that is a leader. Someone who has united his country, not picked on certain minor groups and targeted them, leading for them to be targeted by nutbags who do all sorts of things against them. Now, I mentioned the word there, evil. That's something else I've seen. Where you get different political parties, they can argue vociferously against the other party's policies, against the other party's track record. That's fine. That's what you would expect. What we've actually got, though, is the Trumpians claiming God is on our side. All those other guys, they're evil. They're from the devil. The US is supposed to allow for freedom of and freedom from religion. Religion shouldn't be involved in the state. If you want religious state, then you go to a country like Iran. Look at the trouble they've got. Do you really want one religion ruling? It might sound all right if it's your religion, but imagine if it was the other way. Imagine if, for the sake of argument, that Muslims became the majority in the States and became the group in power. How would you feel if your religion is then targeted and sidelined? Religion has no place in politics other than being allowed. I'm not a religious person, but I'm quite happy for my neighbours to be Islamic on one side, or my neighbours to be Christians on the other side, or Jewish people living in the house behind. It doesn't matter. They're all different people with different beliefs. Now, my beliefs, or lack, should not override theirs. That is what Trump and Trumpians are looking to do. If you go down this road, you are really risking the destruction of America. Maybe not physically, but certainly in all that it seems to have stood for. If I look at America, that's not America. I've probably talked too long. It gets me quite upset, as you might have noticed. So what is my answer? I have an answer. I really do. Actually, I have two possibilities. One is the real and genuine Republicans with their policies and beliefs must step forward, and they have two options. Longer term, start a second party, a real Republican Party. Yes, the chances of you getting in will be a lot lower, but you have to rid yourself of this Trumpian MAGA pollution that's got into your party. But in the immediate future, there is only one answer. You may disagree with every single one of the Democrat policies. Every single one. I'm saying vote for them. Now, that's easy for me to say. I'm in another country. But I spent a lot of time thinking about this. And if I was in the position that the party I had favoured had someone like Trump in it, I would vote for the other party, whoever it is. Hopefully, Trump's gone then, and you can rebuild republicanism and the Republican Party and carry on. Because it's good to have both sides, Republican and Democrat. It's not good to have Democrat and dictator, which is what Trump wants to be. So, what's next?
How about a nice game of chess?
Stay sensible.